Here's a little story for you for Christmas time of the festive season. It's called Dream Big from a Little Twig. The little sticks looked so scrawny as if just a little bash on a door or a bag of shopping on top would dispatch them back to their creator. I couldn't see how such unpromising twigs spliced to spidery roots could possibly morph into the alluring picture on their label. But like a perch swimming deep in a gravel pit lake, I had spotted the lure of that merchandise stand. Each twig was collared like a racing pigeon with a species name in a mixture of Greek and Latin, or a folklore name that had been passed down through the centuries, made up by who knows, that somehow stuck, such as a cheese plant or a prayer plant. Yet here in discount land I was dreaming, even though I couldn't possibly see an outcome. How convincing the pictures were of branches laden with fruit, bounteous and affirming of a gardener's success. The photos printed on the side of the cardboard stand showed blood-red cherries, polished Granny Smith apples and delicious goldens, the sight of a pear tree laden with the bulbous blushed fruit and plums, both gauge and damson, so juicy and bursting with appeal that it made the mouth dribble just to imagine the moment of biting into their flesh and hitting the stone. One photo showed the abundance of nature whereby so much fruit had set on the tree that a shower of excess had fallen beneath, no doubt to be set upon by wasps, slugs and snails. To further add devilment to the carefully placed stand, a generous offer of 2 for was prefixed to a price that appealed to the why not part of the shopper's brain. I mean, who could resist saving a few quid? Perhaps I could convince my better half that 2 such twigs which barely take up more space than one, and then I don't get forced to choose a favourite when really I'd like to have one of each tree and solve the consequences. Besides, each tree has a tag to which there is a glossy picture on one side, and on the reverse, a brief set of instructions as to how this spindly and unpromising specimen would, with just the basics of care, become a blossom beauty that, with the assistance of pollinators, become a fruit set. But there is a little nagging codicil. The label warns me that this fruit tree will set fruit better if it has a pollinating partner. To complicate matters further, it states that the pollinating group it has on the number of sometimes a Roman numeral, that another tree with a number either side of this number would be ideal. So now I'm worried. The plum tree is not self-fertile, i.e. the blossoms will not set fruit by themselves, so I need a tree that is by itself. May not be my choice, but may be able to be available for bumblebees to pick up pollen and transfer it across to my precious little tree. Don't prune in winter, risk of silver leaf on the plum tree, one morning I read. A little diagram is provided of a suitable first prune. You can cap the leader, remove low branches, remove crossing branches, remove inward-facing branches, and cut back new growth to just a few buds, outward-facing of course. You hesitate when it tells you to buy fertilizer, an extra expense, and you know that a decent stake will anchor the tree, not to mention a tie. The wind is an issue here, and how could such a spindly stick survive the storms without such an anchor point? So the price is very inviting, and you pick up 3 specimens, and then, 3 turns to 4 because you get that double discount, and a little pair of horns thinks that if you walk out of the door without taking a big clutch of the offers, someone else will be tempted by the offer, and your favourite choices will be no more. So without hesitation, you hone it down to the best 4. An apple, 2 plum trees, and a chance to grow a pear tree. You don't know how it will pan out, but the compulsion to purchase outweighs the keep your money in your pocket sensibility that is supposed to prevail. What are you purchasing? Is it just a dream of imagining those boughs laden in fruits, or on a late summer's evening, or perhaps you're seeing the trees in full blossom, the scattering of bumblebees hovering over them, a pollinator's dream? Each branch, though, I dream I will live up to them. I promise. I mean, what could go wrong? Instructions are so brief that I honestly believe that now I have the makings of 4 healthy fruit trees, if only I can follow the simple tagged guides. My purchases safely placed my car boot, trailing over the front seat, I drive home with a similar care to that taken when you've just purchased a new pet, perhaps a hamster or guinea pig. It feels like you have new additions to the family. Finally, on a cold spring morning, you dig 4 trenches, twice the size of each root ball, and bring your choice of fertilizer with you, something on the lines of blood, fish and bone. The holes dug, you put on each tree and pour in the fertilizer. You fill it with dug earth, and for the good measure you drive in a stake and then the spindly twig into it. The plant tags are left on, flapping in the breeze. The 4 stark twiggy leafless trees are then watered and the soil tamped down around them. Years will pass, the trees will bear buds, finally blossom to give hope to their new owner. Each tree is a mystery, for if they survive, the challenge still exists whether fruit will set, and even then scorching sun and heavy rain or hail may take their toll on the fruit set. So even if 20 fruits are born on one of the growing seasons, with much feeding of the fruit trees, they may gain strength. Nothing can compare with the joy of seeing your first fruit crop ripening under the sun. Though many people leave their trees to set fruit and ignore picking all of their crop, it is perhaps due to them not being able to process the crop. In the end, once people have successfully grown certain crops, it leaves them content that such an event is within their grasp, but always the resistance of nature to growing cultivars is ever present. Fruit trees infested by white and black fly, hungry caterpillars, leaf mold, legions of ants, aphids, rust, molds, changing. The winter time is the best to tackle these pests. A spray of sodium carbonate washing crystals dilute, or bicarbonate, or perhaps using organic oils like lavender, tea tree, clove oil, and planting barrier herbs like garlic and mint, or using bands around the trees to stop caterpillars climbing up them, or using comfrey and star anise. The allure of these fruit trees will always be in their presentation. How clever to present simple twigs with barely a bud burst, or just a few unfurled leaves, as a prelude to a full orchestra of possibilities. Even now, looking back, I can't imagine how a scrawny, tangled pear tree on a graft with no visible means of bearing a crop could possibly manage to be a scaffold on which a full crop of useful product could be gained. Crop, of course. The journey from simple graft to productive tree is long, and now pear rust comes in the way. But at least some fruit may survive in this way. We pick plants and trees in the end which will allow us to have a chance to have a crop which fulfills our dreams, but we too can be capable of making something happen ourselves from such a humble beginning, with just a twig or a root of pot cutting. Who knows what successes may occur. And here in the corner behind me, after many years of trying, you can see these are just some of the fruits grown. These are Granny Smiths from trees that came from such a simple beginning of the twig. So you too could do the same as me and grow fruit trees.